Expressing yourself is being what you are, and I don't care about what people think. I don't want to be politically right. I don't want to be morally right. I don't want, whether it's my family or my friends or whatever, I don't care about anyone. So I live for myself. You as a filmmaker are not delivering things to the expectation. They have every right to say that. And I think the fundamental reason I would like to believe is a combination of arrogance and something like taking for granted, and also my natural trait I have is carelessness.
People assumed that there was something notorious, nefarious happening behind the scenes, and I think I would like to understand how you were dealing with all of that.
For all my reputation, if you look at it, I was the only who never got into the Me Too, so-called Me Too world, which people think that I am the most obvious choice. 93 serial blasts, people used to take a pride in knowing Dawood Ibrahim or any of the Underworld guys. Bye. So it's like having a powerful friend, which is the truth of the entire country. She was named Miss Thunder Thighs or something, if you remember the gossip magazines at that time.
But didn't you think it was still objectifying to look at, like to say...
But what is wrong in objectifying? I've become an alcoholic and I lost it and I'm no longer in my control. That is again... So I kind of screwed it up because of various reasons. I don't want to blame people. I don't want to, like eventually if I am the director, even if someone influenced me at that time, I will still blame myself, because to get into that situation itself is wrong.
So who's your friend, sir?
I don't have a friend. I don't want. Yeah, no.
You said
I love my loneliness.
Did you say you don't want friends?
I don't want friends.
Why?
See, why do you need friends? First of all, is it to someone there when you feel low? I never feel low. I'm all the time. I never feel low.
Hello everybody, I'm Rudrani and welcome to Spotlight Sessions podcast. ये वही podcast है जहां आपके फेवरेट सेलिब्रिटीज, आर्टिस्ट्स को हम बुलाते हैं, उनकी ज़िंदगी के बारे में बात करते हैं और उन्हें थोड़ा बेहतर जानते हैं. Well, he's definitely a maverick. उन्हें the pioneer of Indian modern cinema कहा जाता है. उन्होंने ऐसे ऐसे फिल्में दी है जिन्हें देख के हम बड़े हुए हैं, पर एंटरटेन होते हुए बड़े हुए, कुछ सीखा है. और of course we've been in awe of his fantastic work. I'm talking about the very talented Gopal Varma. Thank you for doing this, sir.
That makes me feel ancient.
But sir, having a legacy is not a lot of people can say that they have that. And you do. So it's okay to be ancient when you have a legacy.
Okay.
You agree?
Guess so, yeah.
But I think it has been quite the journey for you. But throughout this journey, what I observe is that you've refused to be somebody else. You've refused to toe the line. And you've refused to change. How have you been?
But I don't know that is good or bad.
Sure, which is where we'll come
Actually,
to.
Yeah.
But how have you managed to do that? Being the rebel for eons now. And how has that turned out for you?
I'm not very sure I can be called a rebel. See, eventually filmmaking is about, the purest form is to express yourself. And expressing yourself is nothing but the kind of subject matters or characters which interest you, which probably you, in the growing years, the influences you had of other filmmakers or books or maybe experiences, I would say, or something you heard from someone. Most of my films always happened because of just one idea, not necessarily at the time it came, it wouldn't be a film also, actually. Now, talking about Rangeela, for example, it was just a random happening in my engineering days. Those days, the students and Gunda elements used to hobnob together. So I used to know one guy. We used to hang around him. He's a tough guy. So he was in love with this one girl, in the college, and she was seeing a guy who looks much better and is rich. He's got the car, the only guy who has a car in the campus, So one day we tried to instigate him to go and beat him up because he's not able to get her. And he said, no, I think she deserves someone better than me. That for me was the seed of Rangeela, And Rangeela is a film I made in 95. This must have happened in 85, 84. So at that time, it wasn't even a film. I was not even a filmmaker, But it stayed in my mind, and I have this uncanny memory. I remember random things after a very, very long time, which I probably wouldn't have thought much of it at the time it happened. So then when I saw Roja, I was really stunned with the way Mani Ratnam shot the songs, and I heard Rahman's music, something like that I never heard. And also one of my favorite films from my growing years was Sound of Music. That's the only film I saw where there is no antagonist in the film. Just a situation which makes the conflict in the film. So I think a combination of these 4 or 5 factors, suddenly one day they dropped like Rangeela. And incidentally, it was originally planned to be shot with Sridevi and Nagarjuna as a Telugu film. And we were thinking of approaching Rajinikanth for a special appearance in Jackie's role, and Sridevi selected another film. When I told her 2 stories, one is Rangeela and the second one is some action film. She chose that. So not that I too was very, very keen on that, but somewhere I just dropped it again. And then at a point of time, I was doing this one Telugu film with Urmila, and when she was dancing in a certain song, I suddenly felt if ever I make a film, I'll make it with her. So I think in life, like random things, they keep you going, and you don't see a direct connection between any of them at any given point of time. But sometimes suddenly they come and sit together and a film happens.
Because you're talking about Rangeela, we must mention that उस time पे Aamir obviously already एक बहुत बड़े star थे. And then I think what you managed to do was, and Aamir was the kind of star actor who wasn't sticking to his stardom per se like other people were. So I think but it also kind of opened doors for you to explore those parts of his, talent, which you haven't or anybody else hasn't seen.
Yeah.
How did that work out with Aamir? And also, I think Tanha Tanha became a song that defined sexuality and femininity later, because, and sensuality, of course, but also extremely popular was the rest of the songs. But I think at that time it created quite a furore, but it was always, it gave Urmila a different sort of stardom after that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. See, like with regard to Aamir, see, I used to meet him off and on because he saw my first film, Shiva. During that time, I met him, and once in a while we used to meet. And then when, like I said, how Rangeela came up. So one thing which I was very sure is, see, at the time when I saw a film called Singing in the Rain, there used to be these LD players. My mom used to watch, and she was really mesmerized with the way the songs are shot and all that. She is a little conservative, so when she sees a Hindi film where probably the heroine is wearing a swimsuit or something, she used to scowl. But she was okay with the Singing in the Rain. Then it struck me, it is not so much about the exposure in the way they take a pride in their bodies, the classic musicals of Hollywood, and they feel so happy and proud, and they're not trying to be shy or doing it for a compulsion reason like a commercial success or something. So this is what I thought I wanted to capture, and then I told Urmila, Urmila never wore such clothes before Rangeela. So when you take a pride in your beauty, in the way your body is, it like directly go like that to the audience. It's about eventually what you feel is what it communicates to the audience. So don't think of it as that you're revealing your body or wearing clothes which expose you. And then when these songs are done with so much of purity, the way Rahman, say one of my favorite things like Hai Rama song. I told Rahman, I said, this is not like a love song, The passion with which Jackie and Urmila, as they want to eat each other up, that is what I briefed Rahman. So it can easily look sleazy in a context of where you're not seeing romance like, tumhari face chand jaisa hai, these kind of a thing. Then he compensated that with using this tablas and sitars and alaps and all that. And that suddenly made a lustful kind of an expression also look very poetic and which was exact opposite of how they used to shoot romantic songs at that time.
Yeah, Rahman will always
Yeah,
a genius, and I think
Yeah.
Rangeela's album is proof of that among many of his other albums. That, like I was saying in the beginning, you've been unabashed about what you're doing on screen,
yeah.
which has obviously got polarizing views from both ends. How do you look at the gaze with which you are making, they like to call it bold scenes or bold songs,
Yeah.
songs that showed passion, sexuality, sensuality, in your films before, to what in the later stages?
Yeah.
What was going through Ram Gopal Varma's mind?
See, to start with, which always maintained, even at Rangeela time, I think a woman's body is one of the most beautiful creations. I think why someone should be thankful for that you're born and living, everything. And I think it's one of the major attraction aspect of life, which is what always maintained. Now then it's the context. See, Rangeela is a light-hearted romantic love story. So there was no bold content as such.
Sure.
There was not even a kiss in the film, for example.
Yeah.
But the fact that if you look at Tanha Tanha song, for instance, it is Jackie's close-up with the reverential look. He looks at her, just folding his hands when she is running on the beach. That's what which makes that effect. Suppose if I remove Jackie's close-up and if I put Shakti Kapoor, it will look vulgar, the same shot. So that is how complex, how cinematic emotions can reach out to the audience. On the other hand, I might be making a subject where I think the aspect of the characters are not there. For example, when I made Not a Love Story, it was a very voyeuristic aspect, and that is what was needed because of the subject matter. So depending on that is how I change my way of projecting the specific characters.
So do you think that while people were watching your work, or they have seen your work, your personality on Twitter, which is now called X, was kind of confusing for them? Because what happened is, when you started expressing who you are, which you should, because that is your platform, a lot of the comments kind of was looking a little different from what you were as a filmmaker on screen. You were here projecting women in stronger parts as well. If you see a lot of your films, even if it is about cops and gangsters and everything, women might be the homemaker, but they had strong opinions and they would stand out.
Yeah.
This was what your kind of politics was on screen, that way, gender politics. But I think on social media platforms, you often were making comments that might have been done with a very different intention, but very casual, sort of making, let's say, saying, or particularly, let's say, saying something about women should give the same kind of pleasure like Sunny Leone has on a Women's Day.
Yeah.
And then kind of in your books, you've obviously written about how much you were kind of, in love with Sridevi, and then commenting about particular parts and that.
Yeah.
So people thought that your gaze looked so different from what you were doing on screen, and they thought it was problematic because they thought it was, you've been called misogynistic because of your tweets. I want to understand what was going in your mind, because only you can answer that.
See, I think what was going in the people or reading's minds, I think that is more important, not more than me. See, I always made it a point, even if you look at any of my interviews, even before my debut film Shiva came out, I was always very upfront about my views on everything, in terms of that could be sometimes expressed in the film. But now the social media, because one is you're writing a short tweet, and the context of that could be different in my mind, or could be different in probably someone else's mind. So when you mentioned Sunny Leone, so even if you remember in 2015 or sometime, there was a short ban on porn.
Yeah.
At that time, I was the first guy to talk about, and my article got published somewhere.
You had said that.
So
that's not
on
okay.
a lifestyle, I don't think any person can have a judgment on someone else and on a moral aspect or whatever aspect. So sometimes it could be to praise, or it could be to irritate someone, depending on my feeling at that point of time. Apart from films, I keep making some comment to the other, whatever comes to my notice or what I feel at that time. And Twitter is an immediate outlet. Unlike an interview where you plan, you're talking about something and all that, it just happens out of the blue.
Sure.
And it is possible sometimes I put something which was not, should not have been put, or sometimes it could be misunderstood, sometimes it could be looked at in out of context. There's so many. I'm not trying to regret anything.
Sure.
I'm not saying that. You know, what
Have you analyzed it?
instinctively, no, I don't want to analyze, because that is the beauty of life. See, expressing yourself is being what you are, and I don't care about what people think. I don't want to be politically right. I don't want to be morally right. I don't want, whether it's my family or my friends or whatever, I don't care about anyone. So I live for myself on what I believe in, and that is what exactly I am. I am my Twitter, or Twitter is me.
Interesting you say that. Your views on spirituality and religion and your connection to that has also been a topic of discussion. Maybe in the garb of humor you expressed through your social media platforms about certain things. Taking the recent example of what happened to SS Rajamouli sir, you were among the first
Yeah.
to take up for him, saying that what is happening to him is unfair.
Yeah.
A, why was that important for you to do with, taking up for Mr. Rajamouli and also mentioning that if someone is an atheist, you can't say that you can't make films on God. And B, how do you look at your view on religion and spirituality today?
See, to start with, I feel we're becoming increasingly intolerant, of anybody's views, anybody's thing. Eventually, all people are different, and their beliefs will be based on their personal experiences, the kind of families they're brought up in, their sensibilities, and there are so many factors. It's impossible that any two people will be matched in the same thing. So then we have a law. So eventually everyone can be themselves what they believe in, but they have to follow the law if you're a part of a society or a part of a country or whatever.
Sure.
Beyond that, anyone has the freedom to express. So the moment, in the context of what Rajamouli said, that his entire work has gone, and he just expressed, for me it sounded like almost like Amitabh Bachchan abusing the god in Diwar or somewhere for all the sufferings which is happening. I think a very minor version of that is what Rajamouli did there. And suddenly everybody to jump in and say, aisa kaisa bolte hai, and all that, I felt ridiculous, and which is the reason I reacted. Yes, I am also not religious. I don't believe in God. More than God, I don't believe in devotees actually. Do I think devotees believe in God without knowing why they are believing? Most of them. I'm not generalizing that crowd. I feel people who believe in God are actually egoistic people. For them to think that they're one among the trillions of creatures, all of which God created, and just because they believe and they pray that God will give them special treatment, to believe that, I think, is highly egoistic in my opinion. So what is in your hands is what you are capable of, and don't depend on an external power. I think that is where my non-belief is coming from.
You, in the beginning, said that nothing actually is planned, right? It's a mix of random events happening. But I think the choice is not random, though, I think. Because as someone who started with Shiva, which turned out to be, highly reviewed, you got great ratings for it, you got a lot of awards for it, and then, of course, it continued to make and do what it did for you. Even your second film, actually, even after that. I think you chose to make a film like Shiva. You were your first. You you could have gone with any other subject.
I don't think so. See, actually...
You think it's a coincidence?
No. I came to make Raat. The Raat was my
debut
film I wanted to. But the producers felt a subtle horror film. They were not sure in the times of Ramsay Brothers and all that, where you're not showing really murder or blood or gore or anything. That kind of a treatment, they were unsure. So when correct. So when they told me to write something for Nagarjun, because I was talking to Nagarjun's brother as a producer. So it's not that I only wanted to make Raat. So this was another opportunity, and they had their reason, because Nagarjuna is the studio property, being the son of Nageshwar, So that is how Shiva happened. Yeah. So like every time you make a film, like I talked about Rangeela or a Satya or some random thing, you suddenly decide to make that film. what interests you. It might come out right, it might not come out right. That is not what you will know at the time of your making.
You mentioned Satya. I think before I go to anything else, let's quickly come to that as well. Again, one of your finest work. It brought the best of talents together in the country, and Manoj Bajpayee always mentions about how it changed life for him, and you taking that bet with him, which also was one of your collaborations with Anurag, which continued for a while before both of you
Yeah.
went separate ways. Tell me why Satya will always be, I'm sure, among your most favorite babies, if I can call it
Yeah.
that, for you.
See-
And also, at that time, what were the challenges that you were facing? Because Manoj always says that, nobody kind of believed in it. And of course, it was a shocker that the kind of wave that it became later.
See, to start, answer the first question, why would you say if some films which lived through time, no matter how old they are, primarily the reason for that is the characters looking believable and the emotions relatable, which is why a Godfather kind of film, after 50 years, you still can't tire of seeing it, is because the human emotional aspect is so strongly, everybody in the theater would have had some experience like that. You would have known someone like that. So I think that is the same truth with Satya also. So it is not just about the underworld. It is also about the problems various people like Urmila trying to make a career for herself and her problems at home, to the friendship angle between Vico Matre and Satya, and betrayals, gratitude, all of them part and parcel of everyone's life in one way or the other. And when they're very realistically depicted, probably to an extent, every story will have that at its core. But depiction with reality is what which hits you. I think that rarely happens. Like that's why I keep on saying, if I know how to make Satya, I will make it every day. Every film of mine should be as good or better, which is not the case. So just things come together and fall together for God knows.
Because we're on the subject of Satya, and it is still one of your most loved films.
Yeah.
Besides this falling out, there were also a lot of things. They started calling you arrogant, and they said that, I think throughout your career you've heard this, that you've done what you wanted. But you were also consciously standing up for the caste that you were choosing. You mentioned about the Nagarjuna incident, but I think you have, at that time, taking Manoj would probably not suit what the other producers or other people around would have thought, because he was not among the biggest stars who was getting the box office full. And there used to be a lot of pressure on directors to take stars.
See, the arrogance, there's a difference between a conviction and a mental block, and a vision or an arrogance for that matter. See, Satya, right from the beginning, I knew it has to have people who look believable. They should not be noticed. If I have a 6-footer with a six-pack or a very good-looking face, it will look like a sore thumb. Okay, not that it has not been made before, like with new actors and all that.
Sure.
Maybe not with the success of Satya, but there are plenty of instances of Hollywood films, if you look at it. See, Godfather practically was a newcomer's film. Even if Marlon Brando is there, the first time I saw Marlon Brando was in Godfather. So for me, he was a newcomer. And maybe for most of the world, he could be a big star in America, but I don't remember seeing a single Marlon Brando film before that. And that is the reason they look so real. Because if you take established actors, they will have a baggage. You would have seen him in comedy or this or that or whatever. You already have a certain thing which can sometimes cut into the reality. So Satya was very, very keen on sustaining that. So Manoj Bajpayee, J.D. Chakravarti, they all look like they're part of the job, which it is impossible for me to do that with an established star.
I think you also broke into the world of horror, particularly for Hindi films that nobody else had. You, like you said, the introduction, and I think exploring the psychological horror so well. Of course, there is Bhoot, there are others, but there's Con. And I think even today when clips of Con comes, everybody is just astounded with Urmila's breaking the fourth wall with the audience and looking into the screen. I want to understand how you looked at horror back then. People were not looking at horror the way you were.
See, the most influential horror film I think I've seen in my life is The Exorcist. You know?
Oh my God.
So there, and I realized something about The Exorcist, the so-called jump scares or the gore when she turns her head in a 360 degree, 180 degree, or spewing out vomit, you know, that is what not the scary part. You know, that probably Evil Dead, lots of films have that, you know. The scary part was you don't realize till it, like, you know, there's a scene in The Exorcist when the doctors are saying in a state-of-the-art hospital, they're having a meeting with the mother, and they say, have you ever heard of exorcism? You know, there's no. See, it's a ancient ritual practiced in the late 19th century. But now we are not able to come up with a treatment. If we try to do a shock treatment, a girl of that age can develop some side effects which we cannot predict. So by using the exorcism, we can use the belief of the victim that is possessed by an alien intelligence to drive the so-called evil spirit out. You know? So then she says, are you telling me to take my daughter a witch doctor? That for me is scary. Because see, science, when a civilized thing, though we believe in God and maybe afraid of devil, mostly we kind of believe in science. You go to the hospital, an allopathy hospital, which is based on science, is not on beliefs, you know. But when that guy says go to a state-of-the-art hospital will tell you go to a witch doctor, you suddenly become naked. All your safety systems are completely down, you know, because you are going to the person who you think is expert and he is sending you to someone, you know. So that psychological aspect is what, if you look at the entire Exorcist film, it's a 2-hour 45-minute film, the so-called gore part won't be there for more than 10-15 minutes. Mostly it is psychological.
Yeah.
So when I was making Bhoot, for example, you know, I initially wanted to set the story in a some kind of a hill on a house on a hill or something. And one day one of my assistants said, "Sir, instead of that, can you do it in Goa on a beach?" I never saw a samandar in a horror film. You know, I said, to break that, then let us do it in Lokanwala, I said. So most of the time you think a ghost either is in a graveyard or a haunted house or some large mansion and all that. You won't expect to come in an apartment in Lokanwala where it is teeming, the other people are there, there's a lift and everything what most of the people will experience, you put a ghost in the middle of it. You know? And then the fact it is called Bhoot, already you know, you're prepared to be scared. You know? It's like one of my most favorite shots. Like horror film, it needs a lot of crafting. The camera usage and the sound and the music play a much more important role. Of course, the performances too, than the dialogue and the script. In fact, in a horror film, if there's too much of script, you lose the fear. So there's one scene, it's a duplex apartment, and Urmila comes down from the upper floor. And then she goes into the kitchen, opens the fridge, drinks water, and comes back. Now, I'll just explain the psychology behind that shot. You know, as soon as she woke up and she comes out, I cut a wide angle shot. I see the whole apartment. And she comes and goes and takes her own time to go in, open the fridge. And the film is called Bhoot and it's night time. So the audience are expecting the Bhoot to come. But when I say wide, they can see everywhere. If you go behind her in the camera, they will expect the Bhoot to jump on from the out of the block. But I'm showing the wide angle, where will he jump from? That can't happen. You know? Then as she's coming, I cut to a top angle from the upper floor. So the audience can see behind her and she can see ahead of her. So there's no Bhoot. So when she almost comes to the distance of the shot will cut in out focus, I just pan the camera to show the ghost down. I remember in Ross Theatre, they jumped literally in the seat when that came. So the anticipatory tension, it won't make you jump. Just when you're relaxing, that is a hitting point. Because they thought, this was just a fake thing, nothing has happened. You know? Now she's coming back to Ajay Devgan in the next shot. So these are the small details where you create moments of fear, which is what, like I explained, the moment you put in story, this will go for a toss.
Then you'll have to describe that corn shot to me.
Yeah.
The breaking of the fourth wall. Tell us how that was shot and the idea and of course Urmila executing it to perfection.
See, if you look at it, that's such a simple thing. It's one incident which is pulled to 2 hours or whatever time. And the fact that you are looking at the story from Urmila's point of view, and then he comes in and she starts getting scared. And by the time you reach that point, and she makes her. So it's like you are betrayed by the person who you were rooting for, who you were concerned for. So it looks like that, and harsh betrayal is the biggest fear. Nothing can scare you more than that. Because you let yourself be taken into her character, and all the time you're scared of Manoj. And to see him scared at the end, yeah.
We see some really amazing characters being given to Urmila. I think both of you collaborated for a really, really long time and you all did that very well. I want to understand about this faith you had in her, which must be vice versa. Which I think the world around doesn't look at things from your point of view or what is happening, and they assumed that there was something happening between them, which is why she was getting it. I think is unfair as well for someone who might have been with. They assumed it was more than a director-muse relationship and all of that. How did you deal with that? While, of course, continuing to work and continuing to make such iconic films.
See, to start with, the reason I did so many different kind of films with her, that is because of her capacity. For example, I realized the intensity of her performance when I was shooting Hairama. Otherwise, she's a good-looking, with a fantastic body and everything. But the expression she gave in Hairama shook me up, especially the ones when the red dress, when she's circling Jackie Shroff. So that is what which laid the seed for her in Bhoot and Ek Hasina Thi, for example.
Yeah.
So then to be as gentle as the girl next door in Satya. So the versatility I saw in Urmila, I've never seen in anyone. Which is the reason I made so many films at that time. And people people anyway talk. Otherwise, what will they do? See, if I made probably more films with Amitabh Bachchan than anyone. Yeah. I repeat the music directors, DOPs, for example, many actors.
No, I think because, like you rightly said, you have never cared about what the world is thinking, and you continue to have viewpoints. So you were very open about the way you spoke about different things. Everything added to the narrative that there was not just with Urmila, that because you were so free, you spoke often about sexuality and this and that, and your views in certain films, particularly in the later part of your career, felt that, there was some sort of a casting couch that you got involved in. You heard yourself, I'm sure, about these stories. You've obviously made a film that is an adult film. People assumed that there was something notorious, nefarious happening behind the scenes. And I think I would like to understand how you were dealing with all of that.
For all my reputation, if you look at it, I was the only who never got into the Me Too, so-called Me Too world, which people think that I am the most obvious choice in it. But actually the reverse is true. Because see, people who don't talk like that, they don't make it public. When they are caught, you sort of, fuck, this kind of a guy, you get suppressed. If I don't do it, should be surprising. That's the basic point, So I think it's like, I wrote my biopic.
Yes.
It's called Guns and Thighs. Who name a biopic like that? A biography like that?
And you dedicated to
Mr.
Bachchan and a porn star.
I dedicated to a porn star, Zeenat Aman,
and
Amitabh
gangsters.
Bachchan, Dawood Ibrahim and all that, So that is how I view life, So in the context of that, when I talked about Sridevi, I talked about her thighs, which is the truth of the entire country. She was named Miss Thunder Thighs or something, if you remember the gossip magazines at that time.
But didn't you think it was still objectifying to look at, like to say...
But what is wrong in objectifying? See, that is an asset she has, apart from her talent and everything.
Sure.
And I think calling it objectifying is objectifying.
Really?
Someone has assets. Like, why does a person become unique? There will be reasons. Not, you should not limit it to that she's a great actress, huh? Or she's a great human being. It should be. It could be that also. It could be this also. Why not? Why avoid this?
Probably because women have so many different aspects, and Sridevi was such a talented actor. They thought that not just highlighting the
she's
talent.
not an actor.
You're
That
saying both.
also contributed. I'm saying. I personally believe if she had thin legs, she wouldn't have ever become a star. Now I know this will be controversial,
But
because
you know,
I think it comes in a package. The whole thing of her personality. If Amitabh Bachchan was 6 inches shorter, I'm not very sure he'll become a big star. If Shah Rukh Khan was 6 inches taller, I don't think he'll become a star. See, everything comes in a package. That's what I'm saying.
you mentioned your book. You'd also mentioned about how upset you were that Bonnie Kapoor reduced her to being a homemaker and the kitchen.
Yeah.
You still think that?
See, that was done as like kind of a little fun aspect.
In
Because I believed she was an angel. Actually, no one deserves to touch her. That was my fantasy of her when I was a teenager.
yeah, your tongue in
Yeah.
cheek didn't land well
Yeah,
because you got
yeah.
very offended.
Yeah, he was but also again, Bunny and me talk even now also. The point is at the time it was told to him what I said. I don't know how it got carried. Most of the time, if suppose in the media, someone, you know what he said about Sridevi, if you talk like that, he will react like that. But if the same journalist will say, he said a very nice, fun, tongue-in-cheek thing, he would have reacted differently.
Which
So
you later
many
had
of
to
the
get.
time, the reactions are come like that.
Do you have any regret of making any kind of film that you have done?
I think the only film I truly regret is Department, not
Really?
even Aag.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think that was an extraordinary subject, and I went. I don't want to talk about it also. Because see, the point is sometimes a subject might not be interesting enough.
Okay.
Something else might have come out better than that, or there will be various factors when a film doesn't work. But getting carried away by some technical aspect of using different kind of cameras, that is not the only, that is not the reason. Even if I shot normally also, the result would have been as bad. I'm not blaming the technical aspects which I chose to do that film. It is just that that subject matter is extraordinary. I mean, so I kind of screwed it up by, because of various reasons. I don't want to blame people. I don't want to, like eventually if I am the director, even if someone influenced me at that time, I will still blame myself, because to get into that situation itself is wrong. Yeah.
You said you still don't regret Ram Gopal Varma ki Aag, but that kind of start.
No, but that I'm saying. The reasons why Aag turned out to be like that are very different from how Department turned out to be like that. You see, Aag went wrong right in the beginning itself. When I am not making a film, I am trying to copy a film, giving it a vision and leaving its soul. I was interpreting it shot by shot, scene by scene. That itself fundamental wrong way of filmmaking.
Because there's so much spoken about how things went south since Ram Gopal Varma ki Aag, and they said we lost the Ram Gopal Varma that we knew. I want to understand what happened a little earlier from that, because of course it's I don't think it's about the films not working at the box office. Your films have been revered. Not all films of yours have worked at the box office, but they are still loved today, are considered to be cult classics, right? There are different aspects of filmmaking that were appreciated and all of that. But there was a massive turn after a certain kind of films. People said that, he's lost it and he's lost the glory.
And with good reason. See, the moment if you as a filmmaker are not delivering things to the expectation, they have every right to say that. And I think the fundamental reason I would like to believe is a combination of arrogance and something like taking it for granted, and also my natural trait I have is carelessness. But that same carelessness helps me sometimes. It actually, because that is also the reason for my impulsive nature and the very different kind of framing I do, which breaks paths sometimes and which irritates people sometimes. But I would think is a mixture of carelessness and arrogance is what I would think. Yeah. See, arrogance is what? It's nothing that I know what I'm doing. I'm not paying attention to what someone else is advising or telling me or whatever. Arrogance is that taking yourself for granted that only you know better.
I don't want to assume what the world has been assuming, so I'm going to ask you straight up. Because I see the confidence in you still. You know, anyone who would have met you would have assumed you to be very different. I see that you still are humble. I see that you still are yourself. And there is self-belief. So here's my question. What really happened, Ramo?
Yeah.
What really happened then? There were rumors about you struggling to deal with different things. They said that you were down and out and you were also becoming an alcoholic and things like that. And you probably were not interested and a lot of things were said. That he has gone astray completely. And not, this is apart from the filmmaking, as in your personal life.
You see, like when you're far away from someone and we don't listen, and then you start thinking about him from the way he made a film or something they might hear about me. And when I do not care to counter that or explain that, people's imagination will go wild. Whether they talk about I'm an alcoholic, I become I'm licking girls' feet in video and whatever else they keep saying. When I'm telling why I did that and whatever, it sounds different because when you're hearing it from the person himself is very different from hearing it from someone else or trying to analyze it through a random tweet which comes out of nowhere.
Yes.
But that is part of the ecosystem when you're living in the social media world. You know?
So, which is why this question, though, we'd like to know.
So that is what I'm saying. See, the point here, I want to differentiate. When I saw Satya in January, this is about 4 or 5 months back, that is when I truly realized, I look back on my life and first time I seriously thought about what I am, what I did, what I didn't, and everything. It will be very difficult for anyone to believe this when I say that. But the first time I actually looked back, till then I was doing stuff randomly, whatever comes to my mind. And my good work also came like that only. So ever since I was conscious, I was always being careless. You know? And that impulsive nature. I make a Rangeela, then I make Daud. Then I make Satya. I mean, I can't be changing in six months' time either, no? But all the good, bad also happened out of that carelessness, mixed with arrogance. These are two elements which you need to really seriously listen to. They sound the same, they are not. You can be very careful and arrogant also. But careless and arrogance is a very deadly combination, you know, on the negative side, what I'm saying. So if I have to be conscious, now I probably can explain everything much more in detail. I think I developed the ability to look at myself. Instead of someone else telling me this is what is wrong with you.
Most honest thing I've heard in a while. Please go on.
Yeah. So the point is, any human mind, when it comes with an idea or is excited about something, I think it's important to take a step back and to see it from someone else's point of view. There's a difference between expression and communication. When I'm talking to you, it's important that I talk in a way you understand, not in the way I want to speak. That is the difference I understood now. Expression and communication, you know. So in the context of that doesn't mean that I want to change my style of filmmaking or like when someone said your camera angles are becoming predictable because everybody knows Gopal Varma's camera angles.
Yeah, and then this
which I do not believe that because angles are a point, like I explained, the Bhoot photography is different, Rangeela will be different, or Not a Love Story will be different. Depends on various things. No? Like Department is a horrendous camera work, but actually I copied that style from an extraordinary film in terms of its style, which is Natural Born Killers, Oliver Stone. But the difference is, there he was dealing with psychotic characters, Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis. So they were like natural born psychopath killers. So the style which was there adapted, and I took the style and put different characters, which was a complete mismatch. But I don't need to make the entire film to understand that.
Sure.
I should have thought about it in great detail even while adapting that kind of a style. You know, why you don't think is because you're arrogant, you're being careless. Now people who work with me, See, a lot of people ask me this question. After making these many flops also, why does Amitabh Bachchan work with you?
Yeah. Or how do you
I don't
convince him
think-
for ARG?
That's what I'm saying.
How do you convince him
That is
for
what I'm saying. See, everybody was convinced. Ajay Devgan was there. Mohanlal was there.
Yeah,
Who was not there in that?
exactly.
Yeah. So the point here is, actors do out of trust. They trusted me and I let them down. So no actor can really understand what a director's vision is because his department is performing. So he will assume the director knows what he's talking about, especially when the director has some record. Ajay Devgan will trust me because of Company and Bhoot. Amitabh because of Sarkar or something. This will be how the whole thing in the industry works like that only. You know. But someone trusting me, I need to take it as a responsibility, which I did not. Why I did not take it is because of carelessness.
Were you going through a difficult time in dealing with your mental health during this
No,
time? Never.
no.
How did
No,
you?
that is what I'm saying. Lost it is a very loose word. What does it mean, lost it? See, anything, if arrogance also, you take it under that. See, arrogance is a trait. Mental health is about you not being in control of you're not being consciously in control of your own emotions or thought process.
No, I asked
That is what comes under the dictionary definition of mental health. Yeah.
Sure, but mental health, I'm not asking in context to the films you're making, sir. I think when you have so much judgment happening and you were refusing to come out and give anything, any kind of explanation, it kind of looked like you're almost in solitary confinement for a while. You've been away from the world that is talking so much about you. You were still doing your own thing and you would be tweeting whenever you wanted to. So now we don't know what's happening on your side, sir. So my question to you is, how were you dealing with all this alone? Because there were the problem with the industry is, please correct me, sir, anytime you think I'm saying something wrong, is that when you are at your top, they're always around you. But when you're being questioned, and especially a filmmaker, and you say that, this is done with, and people don't associate with you any longer because they want to continue kind of living in the glory of success. I don't think you want to deny that you were kind of away from...
No, see, when I only connect to people when I have worked with them. Okay. Otherwise, I'm not in touch, including the people who I work the most.
Even with actors and
everything. I'm not in touch with anyone unless there is work.
Sure.
So like I earlier said in this interview, when you are not there, people, they hear, they exaggerate and whatever happened. So even now if I say that, you might not... but my point is, if you're consciously not in control of your emotions and your deeds and your thought process, that comes under the definition of mental health.
And you were all right there.
Traits of it is different. Arrogant, careless, these are traits.
Sure.
So those traits had made all the reason for my failures was mostly that.
So it was not in kind of alcoholism and...
No.
Then I'll probably...
See, that came in because, when I say random to shocking thing, I usually do it in the night. Because night is when I'll have time. So then they will think night time if he's doing such nonsense, maybe he is drinking.
He's drinking and
right. Something like that, yeah. So fair enough. I think if someone else does it, even I might think the same. But if you look at the most outlandish tweets anywhere in the world comes from Donald Trump. And Donald Trump doesn't drink also. So that doesn't prove anything.
I'm going to change my question a bit then. I got clarity on the fact that your mental health was okay, you were doing fine, and you were probably, living the way you were. Then where did this self-aware moment come? So in the beginning of this year, you saw Satya and you said you had that watershed kind of moment for yourself that I need to analyze and I see where I went wrong. Before that, did you not analyze and think?
No.
Not at all?
Never.
So
which is the most shocking thing for me, because I believe that I'm a reasonably educated and reasonably intelligent guy and I'm very well-read person. In spite of that, I did not do that. That is what shocked me. And I was not having a kind of I know some directors who get angry with the audience. They would kind of start defending it. I never defended my failures, not a single time in my life, no. But it is so easy to analyze what exactly is happening with my films or what I'm doing, why I'm doing.
Correct.
Why I wouldn't do that for such a long time is a mystery. So like, I'll tell you something very interesting. I'm a huge follower of Ayn Rand. Now, Ayn Rand I read in my college days. Maybe for the last 40 years, I have been a kind of all the time I quote her characters, Howard Rock, and only now I realized suddenly with like a shock that I never followed her philosophy. I had only talked about it. So what is the fundamental philosophy of objectivism, of Ayn Rand's philosophy? From the time you are conscious, if you zero in on a certain pre-decided destination, every deed, every word, every relationship, everything you do should be geared towards moving towards that destination. So, in other words, there has to be a constant progress. See, destiny or your incapacity or someone else might slow it down or stop you for a while. But your movement should be consistently forward. This, except for saying, I realized I never followed that. Why? Again, the same answer. The impulsive carelessness and so do the film is different from let's do a film. Let's do a film is being careless. Let's do something greater than Satya is objectivism.
So then is that why you took like a gap and break and you didn't want to get into filmmaking?
No. I see, that's what I'm saying. I got somewhere little into politics. I made some political films in between. Some productions and all that. So pretty much I've been not doing anything seriously for last many years actually. Yeah. It's not like a break or anything. I was just passing time actually.
You didn't want to?
No, I wouldn't say. See, the desire was not there. The passion or...
Something was missing.
It's not something. The passion and desire to make something really grand, that is gone.
During this time, did you have... I know you didn't keep in touch, but sometimes people who really cared about you, including actors who loved your work, must have reached out to you.
Yeah,
who were the ones?
I mean, I'm in constant touch with Mr. Bachchan, for example, and anybody.
Did you have this really raw conversation about?
No. Mr. Bachchan, from the time I know him, which is roughly 20 years, I would think, he's not asked me a single time what I am doing. He didn't advise me. And I think the reason for that is he believes I'm smart enough to know myself and I will know it one day. There's no point in pushing.
He has 100% faith.
It is surprising. It's not a faith. I think he knows I'm smart enough to know it only by myself, but it won't come from someone else telling. That's what I think. I never asked this question to him also.
I definitely wanted to understand where your analysis of underground Bollywood came from. You've written a book and you've spoken a lot about how you saw everything, how you heard everything, and how you looked at these connections and why your movies are so deep, in fact, rooted in Underworld and Bollywood.
Yeah.
So I think before that, I would like to discuss that. There are stories that you've mentioned where you have been also, in their presence. You've heard of people there and how it impacted your understanding of them. Can you elaborate? At the time, Bollywood at the time was being threatened by Underworld.
Yeah.
So Bollywood at the time was being threatened. You had Preeti Zinta, but come up front. There were a lot of other actors.
See, to start with, the common people have a very wrong understanding of the Underworld. See, it is not operating like a separate entity in a separate place, like a den or an office, whatever you call it. They are a part of it. What do you mean by a part? For example, I remember one day in 97, I think, roughly, just before I made Satya, one producer I know, he just, I went to his office and there was a gentleman sitting there. And Ram Gopal Varma, he told that guy, अपना रंगीला फिल्म बना रहे and Ram, ये Romesh है, छोटा राजन का shooter है, he said. He actually said that, he's Chota Rajan shooter, he said.
What did you do? What was it?
And because he said it so casually, I also said hi, I said. He also said hi. Because it took me a while to figure out what he said what he said. See, that is because suppose he took me aside and told me, Chota Rajan shooter, that is a different reaction. A Chota Rajan shooter means he told me that as if he's some engineer or a contractor or whatever, So the point is, when you know that you are not doing a crime, and the guy who's supposed to be a criminal looks like you and he talks like you, it's very easy to blur the difference between what you think. So before the 93 serial blast, people used to take a pride in knowing Dawood Ibrahim or any of the underworld guys. Bye. So it's like having a powerful friend. They are not doing crime. They are not being associated. But it looked like they're powerful people. And when it's an organization, say psychopath, you're scared. Some petty criminal. But an organized criminal, you don't think of it in terms of crime. Chalo smuggling hai, or something, some real estate ka kuch issue hai, and something. So when they look like normal people, you feel they're normal people. So that used to happen in Bollywood a lot. Because of that, what will happen is they become friends.
But they also
and when you start hobnobbing with them, no, see, that is a big, extremely stupid notion. See, why the hell would Underworld invest money? See, they used to help out friends. See, you can't put your name, first of all. Huh? And when you can't put a name produced by so-and-so, why would you do that? Not for fame. And which Bollywood film makes money? Why would they want to waste it? They can make a call and make a few crores by extortion. Why the hell would they invest money? So what used to happen, these guys used to go and chemjafai, like what do you call, hangers on. So these guys go and please get me dates. Aap ek phone kar do ho jayega. So they just want to publish, do a favor, and then the too big publicity they will get. Then actually, mostly they used to have fun with the industry.
The definition of fun
because see, definition of fun is nothing but, for example, I can't name the actor. One actor one day called me and said, see, Ajay, that guy is calling me, and you're scared. I said, just talk nicely to them, don't instigate, or some advice I get. Second day, the same actor called me and said, see, he's actually giving me choice of my script and my director. Why shouldn't I do it with him? And I think he's much better than all these Bollywood producers, he said. And then they start becoming friends. Now, what is friend? You're having a conversation. He's not doing a crime. So when other person talks humanly, you will forget what he is, what actually, where he came from and all that. So that friendship, and then one day what will happen is you will ask for something. When this guy doesn't give, or he says he can't do it, that is when
things will go south.
Yeah.
How was your tryst with the underworld? There are always stories about how you actually have friends.
I have never ever spent time with them in the context except for research, because I know the danger. I believe in this old Hindi line, police se dushmani nahi, dosti nahi. Same thing goes with Underworld. Same thing goes with politicians also. Anybody in power, if you become close to them, you will make enemies without your knowledge.
Is this a politician talking?
No, it is about my understanding of
it. No, because you mentioned politics and you've seen quite a lot of them.
Anybody in power. Power basically attracts conflict. In conflict, there will be two sides. So if you are close to one side, you are making enemies of the other side even without your knowledge.
So tell me, how did you use this knowledge in films so effortlessly? We'll start with, I think we should start with Sarkar. The timelines are here and then we'll go back to Company.
Okay.
Of course, you already were obsessed, loved The Godfather. It was your ode to Godfather, which everybody knows till now.
Correct.
But I think it was a very RGV world of Godfather, where your characters had that grit, that had that depth.
The primary difference is, I had an issue with the original Godfather when Amerigo Bonacera comes to asking for help on the daughter's wedding day, And when he says, why didn't you come to me? Why do you go to the police? And that guy offers money. That thing, it will never happen in the real world. Why? Because most of the time, these people are very emotional people. They want to win you with the emotion by going out of their way to do something. They won't make it sound like a business transaction.
Sure.
So that was my idea of such people who I met. And Godfather had such a resonance across the world. Nobody ever heard of mafia. Nobody heard of organized crime. But everywhere there is a guy like Godfather. There will be in Hyderabad, there will be in some district, some village or whatever. Some big powerful man will be there. So I thought the nearest parallel will be someone like Balasab. So if you look at it, when Amitabh Bachchan is first told by this old man who comes and tells what happens to the daughter, he takes it very seriously. He's very emotional. He almost feels as much as the father of that girl when he does it. So that was the fundamental difference I made between Godfather and Sarkar. So the second point is, when I recently saw in my changed mind post Satya, the whole world is looking different, including Godfather. First time I realized, I understood Godfather also now. After seeing God knows how many times, made by some other filmmaker, obviously, I realized for the first time, Sarkar was a very childish kind of a version of Godfather. I feel now. I don't know if you can shorten it. I'll tell you the basic reason. I'll elaborate on that. If you ask anybody, what is the story of Godfather? Okay, there's a powerful man, he's God's son. Some enemies tried to kill him, and the younger son took revenge. More or less, this is the simplest way of telling Godfather plot.
Revenge saga.
Sarkar also same. All the hundreds of versions which came from 1972 onwards, even till Animal, one version of Godfather, about father and son and all that. Now, when I saw Godfather now, that's hardly a couple of months back, it re-released, first time I understood the story very differently. See, the question is, when you are seeing a film, story is being told is different from you are feeling the story. Feeling the story is a very different thing, which I understood now. Now, I try to explain the simplest form what is the story of Godfather. So there's a New York City. There are some 5-6 families who are kind of criminal organizations, in which Corleone is the number one. One new guy, entrepreneur, he went to come and met Barzini and said the drugs is the coming thing. All what you're doing is nothing in kind terms of the profits that can make. So Barzini said, I'm convinced with your proposition, but we need the help of someone who knows the police and judges and all that. Only Corleone can do that. So you go and pitch the idea to him. Now Corleone said, see, I agree that I have, but they think gambling and others are harmless vices. I don't think they'll think that about drugs, and I might lose contacts. And he refuses. But in the course of that, his son makes a mistake. Is Chatagla going to guarantee your investment? Which means he's for it, it sounds. Then Barzini goes back, Solojo goes back to Barzini and tells him that now they're going to miss out all the money, what they can earn, because of this old man's old-fashioned thinking. But when he talks about Sonny, he said this. So they decided they find a way to kill the Don, and Sonny will, then they can make a deal with Sonny, because in mafia it is business eventually. So after Barzini said that, they make the plan. Now first, Luca Brasi is the most strongest enforcer. They want to keep him out. They don't want him to come after them.
Correct.
So they kill him. At the same time, they kidnap Tom Hagen, and then they do the hit job on Don. And then Solojo tells, I couldn't have done this to the man before. He's slipping. He doesn't understand the modern business of what is coming. And you understand it. And Sonny understood. So you need to talk to Sonny to make the deal. So he says, Sonny will come after you with all his God. So sure, that will be his first reaction. But he needs to know that Tatalia and Barzini are behind me, and the other families to do anything to stop a full-scale nuclear under gang war, And I got you because if I couldn't have got this message to him. Now you are there, you go and convince him and make him see reason of not getting into a revenge trip. So most of this, what I told, is not there in Godfather. But it is there because you understand it subconsciously. You don't need to see Solojo talking to Barzini, or to Tartaglia or anything. Or this whole thing. So this much of a maturity, I don't see it in Sarkar. See, Sarkar is such a simplistic, kuch mal aa raha hai. What can that mal be? Is it smuggling? Is it a bomb? Is it a RDX like a Tony? I never explained that also, And if Sarkar knows that this guy is a bad guy, and why didn't he hold him there? Why did he let him go out? So I find all this a very childish kind of interpretation of Godfather when I see Sarkar now, And that also I realize now. When I saw Godfather a couple of months back.
So I want to say this. It's very interesting. This is like the Godfather retold by RGV for everybody who's listening in. So interesting. But I also want to understand when you were explaining when you met Mr. Bachchan, this also started a very long relationship with Mr. Bachchan for you. And like you say, the trust that he had in you built from this side. So I want to understand that conversation of your casting process. And then, of course, I would like to come to company because it changed Vivek's life and also life for all the cast who participate in company.
Yeah, see, this to start with, my whole of my teens, I grew on Bachchan's films to start with. It was like my dream to work with him. And I thought this was the most perfect because Godfather being my favorite film, it was the right age and the right kind of image he has developed over the decades. And when I told him, I just told him the first scene actually, when this old man comes and the scene when Rashid comes to make that offer. Only these two scenes I told him initially. But then when he saw the way I was making it, the close-ups and the treatment, the music and everything, when he came to my office and he saw the scene, he was zapped. And I think that is what which made him feel something about me, something as a director. How director by definition is about what he translates from script to on the screen by using the various crafts. It is not about the script, you know. So in that context, which is also the reason, in spite of Aag being such a debacle, he never said anything against it, and because he saw me working equally hard on Aag set. Probably I worked more harder in Aag, but nobody they'll laugh. I know that when I say that. Your vision, if it is wrong, how much ever you work hard, it doesn't make any difference, no? You're going towards the wrong direction, so no matter how hard and how fast you travel, if you're going in the wrong way, you're lost. But you can't take away that he put in the effort, which he saw on the set, not in the film.
And then, of course, I think this evolving relationship with Ajay Vivek in Company, again a very revered film of
Company happened like in the... I met one guy who's related to the Underworld, you know. He's not like directly a criminal, but he was very aware of both Dawood Ibrahim and Chota Rajan. He knows them as people. He sat with them, maybe played cards or had drinks with them. He told me, उन लोग के बीच में इतना झगड़ा है अभी. So many people are dying. But Rajan आज भी इतना respect करता है दाऊद भाई को. And if he's smoking a cigarette and Dawood calls, he will drop the cigarette. That I thought was very incredible, you know. So then he said, "Oh, nafrat karte isliye pyar karte." That gave me the central idea of there's a mentor, there's a prodigy, you know. And then the prodigy disagrees with something the mentor thinks. He can't be as cold-blooded and as ruthless as him because he's an emotional person. And that brings in the rivalry. You know, so that gave me the plot. Then whatever little bit I know from the Underworld and from this guy, what he told me about this, and without him saying that line, I wouldn't have never made Company. I wouldn't have even thought of it. And that guy, after telling me all that, he said, "Arey, kya kuch romantic picture banao na? What do you want to make this?" He said. And ironically, just a few months after he spoke to me, he was shot dead. In Bandra. But he was related, he was also involved in the 93 blast case. He was one of the members involved in supplying guns to Sanjay Dutt.
Oh my God. So your information came from a direct source actually.
Yeah. Quite a lot. Yeah.
Which is why the authenticity.
See, more than the incident, I'm interested in the psychology of people.
Yeah.
You know? Like one guy told me when Tiger Memon, who was the main person responsible for the 93 blast.
Yes.
He was traveling with Tiger Memon and some other guys, and he wanted to have some vada pav or something like that late in the night at 3 o'clock. So there's some famous guy in Bandra who makes it. His shop was closed. They made him open at gunpoint. They made him do. So it's actually funny to use a gun to make vada pav, but that makes them human also, no? If you take the gun away in the context.
Yeah. And from the other side, you can also see like this immense thirst of power and, you know, almost tripping over it, that if I don't, it's like a tantrum. If I don't get it, I want it. I have asked for it.
See, Colin Wilson is a kind of a social psychologist. he actually made a very interesting observation in a book called The Origin of the Impulse, He said the criminal is like a child. See, when we are children, we want everything. But slowly as we grow up, we realize we can't have everything. There's a source, there's a rules, there is this and there is that, and you adapt to that in a civilian aspect. And just compromise for whatever, you keep your desires inside. But the criminal never grows up, he said. He's still a child. So if you don't give, he will take it. And that's an incredible observation. And most of them I met, they're actually like children. So what is a child? Child won't understand the practical reality.
They're gullible.
Yeah, they're gullible. And they don't understand the practical aspect. So if they have the strength, so like an animal, you'll just, the dog will snarl. That's intimidation, no?
Yeah.
So when they can use the gun and the fact that people are scared of them, they're going to use that. But behind that, they're as human as anybody.
So the casting of Vivek and Ajay.
My first thought for that was Abhishek. Abhishek didn't have dates. Abhishek was shooting, I think, for Kuch Na Kaho or something. I'm not very sure of the title. And then I was in my office and Suresh Oberoi was doing a production of mine called Pyar Tune Kya Kiya.
Correct.
He came to meet me and he said, my son's photos. The moment I saw the photo, I thought he was perfect for that role.
And then you met Vivek.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened after that.
So he kind of showed me a small audition video he made. And then one day he wore the clothes and, that beady and this and that. And he came to the office and this body language and everything.
It must have made you happy that it changed Vivek's life. Company really put him on the map.
Yeah.
Were you proud of that fact?
Not really. I mean, why would I? See, I'm using him as a device for a certain product I'm making.
Okay.
I'm not made it for Vivek. Neither did I do that for anybody.
You don't own the way people own their actors.
No.
You're detached from
I'm very
from
detached.
Them. Very interesting. Ajay, the casting.
You see, my first thought was Shah Rukh. But when I met Shah Rukh, I felt Shah Rukh is like a live wire. He's in a, and in the way he's is the energy is constantly exploding from inside, the way he talks, and you can't just put him down. And I always felt I needed Malik to be very lazy, laid back, and he just thinks in his head, and he probably doesn't speak much. And that was the understanding of the character on a script level for me. And I couldn't see Shah Rukh at all. I had a very brief meeting with him. We didn't even get into the thing of do it, and he expressed interest. And then as I was coming back from his place, I suddenly thought of Ajay. Ajay's natural body language is that.
Yeah.
Just has to be himself, nothing else, I thought of Kamal Haasan for Mohanlal. I went to meet him. There also I felt the same. Kamal Haasan would make it very cinematic, his performance style and all that,
But that would have been fantastic as well.
I don't think so.
No?
Not in the way
what you were making, not what you were trying to make.
See, every actor brings in his own personality. Sometimes it works for the better also. But it's very difficult after making it to imagine someone else.
Because you said this, sir, is this one of the main reasons why you have not collaborated with people like Salman or Shah Rukh or someone whose personality seems even greater than they are?
At a time, I was very near to me and Shah Rukh making a film around 15 years back.
Which film was that, sir?
It was not a title. We had a lot of, but I started feeling, for the same reason, I think it's a crime to stifle. So my style of filmmaking, like very subtle and very intense and brooding. That is the kind of cinema I make.
Sure.
And to put someone like Shah Rukh in that style, I think doing a big injustice to him and his fans. For example, I didn't like him in Swades at all.
You didn't, sir?
No.
Why? Because of...
Yeah, I want to see him in Dilwale Dulhania. I want to see him in those kind of...
larger than
life and fun films, So to take an actor with that image and to put in this, I think is a disservice both to the actor and the film also. That's how I felt.
So that is why you never thought you could work with Salman either.
Yeah. See, it's also up to your sensibility. You can make a film keeping Salman in mind. I can't make that. I'm not saying I don't make. I can't make. I'm not capable of making that kind of cinema, which which will justify the presence of Salman Khan.
Is that, but again, because I think you thought Aamir was a person who kind of submits himself to the character, it was a no-brainer for you to put him in
The
Rangeela.
main reason for Aamir for me was he's got an unimaginable innocence, which I noticed in Kayamat Se Kayamat Tak, his first film. You know? His demeanor is very classy. And then to put him in a Mabali Tapori kind of a character, or the opposite of it, I think the likability quality is going to come because of Aamir. Whereas anybody who naturally is in that space, I thought would look very fake and overdone. That was my reason for going to Aamir.
Sir, were there actors or directors that you eventually did not get along with in the beginning? At some point, you all kind of came to a similar ground.
No, there's not a single actor I ever had that experience. Because in casting, you always meet the person much before you actually make the film. And you kind of know each other and things like that, yeah.
People always talk about your Anurag and you and what happened. But, you know, when I spoke to Anurag, he also said that now he tries understanding you. What was that conversation?
See, to start with, I and Anurag technically never had an issue. At the time when my films were failing, he said something. I never replied to it. I never even acknowledged that time. He was talking, you know. And I was always natural, normal with him. So recently again we spoke when we saw Satya. So it's not like the affair broke up and is back into the affair. I never had a problem with him, but I think he had a change of his mind. Maybe now he's thinking I'm not as bad as what he thought I was.
We are talking about the era that you've lived through. Okay. How was it possible for you to not give in to this image that the world was looking at you? Because you were revered. Now that I see you and I hear you talk about things, it almost feels like even then you did not really take that seriously. Or did you?
No. See, that's the whole point. And see, arrogance and carelessness will never let you take anything seriously, which is the good side of it. Which is actually the good side. Everything will have a good and bad side, you know.
So you did not at all look at what was happening around you?
No. See, for example, let us say when someone told, when I was at the factory, there used to be a huge number of wannabe actors outside. So he said, now they're not there. How do you feel about it? I know the reason for not them being there is because they come on WhatsApp now. Nobody comes to in people. But I don't want to explain that. It looks like I'm defending myself. I felt too silly to do that. So many things I could explain, but I didn't care about it.
You were like, it's okay.
People who know me or who are working with me, they know. Why should anybody else know?
Do you relate to Vanga? You've often spoken about your love for his filmography, his craft, particularly Animal, and you were so excited when you saw it. But you also told him what you didn't like. I want to understand your relationship with Vanga today and your love for him.
See, basically, I like anyone who's in the space of intense filmmaking, which I think technical, except for Vanga, I don't see that. And then he breaks norms. He surprises you. He shocks you. I didn't care for the story of Animal. I didn't connect to it also. The father-son thing and all that, you know. But there are many scenes in the film which I felt was, I would never expect to see something like that. And in the way he got his performances from especially Ranbir, you know. And so I told him, see, a film is like a person. See, somebody might think I'm a very intelligent guy. Somebody might think I'm a pervert. Somebody might think I lost it. But I'll be the same person. Same thing happens in films. You might like something, you might don't like something, but overall you'll have an experience. And 100% Animal will give that unforgettable experience. But even if you don't like it also, it will be unforgettable.
And in the beginning you said that you're not here to prove your morality, or you don't care about what people think of you. I am assuming that you also have that in commonality with him.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because he also has been called out.
Yeah. See, he is like, you know, he said something to the extent of, except for the guy who's making it and the guy who's buying the ticket, nobody in between can ever know about a film, which I really believe. You know, but that will come under the same thing what I explained. Is it a conviction? That also can be an arrogance. Anybody telling that and I know what I'm doing, as long as it's working, it's conviction. When it doesn't work, it's arrogance.
Do you think it's arrogance?
I don't know. Because that's what I'm saying. The point that is related to the result of the thing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
How do you differentiate between confidence and arrogance? That's the very thin line.
Unless the person who is involved in it only tells you what it is. Like you have right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, oh, I felt I was arrogant and all of that. Who are the filmmakers besides Vanga that you really are impressed by and you feel like the future is bright because they are going the right way? And also from all industries, not just Hindi. And also actors, male, female, who you found are doing very interesting work, which would only take the Indian cinema, which again means from any industry, forward.
I don't see that much of cinema because I developed a habit of watching a lot of documentaries. We'll have a limited time and then I see foreign films, or maybe series these days sometimes. So in the whole context, I really did not find, an actor who's like really interests me and, But that could be also, see for example, I never thought anything much of Irfan Khan, though he's a revered actor and internationally got acclaimed, in spite of all that, So it could be
you
also.
didn't see much of his work? Or?
No, I did, but it also could be because the kind of cinema I don't connect to, maybe in a way. I find Manoj terrific. Nana Patekar is a terrific actor. Amit Jito, just leave that, And in the others, for example, in the females, I find Triptii very interesting. I really liked her in Animal.
She didn't have much to do though, but
yeah, I know. But
have you seen her previous work besides before that?
Not really.
She's very good. She's excellent. How interesting. What is the kind of films, if you finally decide to make? Because I feel like today when you said that you have clarity of where you went wrong, and one day when you an artist you never really stops creating, right? What would you like to make again? Not what you've done, or a sequel. What is the subject?
I just finished making one film with Manoj Vajpayee and Rangeela. It's called Police Station with Bhoot.
I heard.
That's a genre I have not touched, horror comedy. And then one of my most ambitious film is a film called Syndicate, which I am mostly will start the moment my work in police station is over.
Has the cast been finalized?
Not all, but mostly.
Who are the ones?
I can't tell now.
You can't reveal now. It hasn't been. But
that is one film I am gearing it to wash away all my sins I have done ever since ever.
I like the way you say it. You said Syndicate, and can I assume that it's taking you back to your good old bad days of Underworld?
No. There's no Underworld in that.
It sounds like a drug syndicate, so it's my assumption.
No, not really. There's no drugs.
But something.
It's kind of based little in terrorism, but a very different form. Yeah, that probably will have my entire understanding of the criminal world. I think I managed to encompass in one film.
That sounds intense.
Yeah.
So, because you're here, I have to ask you: when was the moment you knew you fell in love with films? Because you were an engineer, very far away from this world. You are our true blue outsider, right? Who stepped into this world and created his own space. What was that moment for you? And how were you? How did you look at your understanding of films?
Love for cinema, constantly watching films is one, but consciously I never thought I'll be a director. It's only my love of cinema. Then at one point, I used to have the habit of narrating the scenes from the films I saw. And my friends, when they went to see the film, they used to say, your narration was much better than what... I used to change it in my mind, what I saw. So that was what initially laid the seed, I think, in terms of slowly me trying to understand the craft rather than just feeling the effect of it. First time I ever consciously heard the word director is when, I don't know what age I was watching Shyam Benegal's Ankur. My uncle took me. And then in the end, this guy throws a stone, a little boy at a window. So he told me that is a director's touch, he said. That is when I first time consciously heard the word director.
For a creative person like you, has there been ample time for you to kind of build your own personal life?
I'm more interested in the personal life.
Where I was going.
Do
you not believe in the concept of true love and one true life partner at all?
Not at all. I'm scared of relationships and commitments and all that, because then you'll have to live up to expectations. And that's a trap you fall in. And it's impossible to come out of that. So I think I managed to understand it pretty early in my life, and I'm living a very, very happy life.
What are the misconceptions the world has had about you? We've spoken about a few, but that you find very, maybe even ridiculous or funny or maybe even truthful.
The one is they'll think that I'm objectifying women, and I don't think anyone respects women more than me, mainly for their beauty. See, the point is your capacity and your brain is genderless. A man can be there, a woman can be. But what is unique from a man's point of view, me being a man, is the woman's attraction. So I say that very often, and like that. So I'm thinking, that guy is a guy, The people talk like that is a misconception. Because So the second thing is I've become an alcoholic, and I lost it, and I'm no longer in my control. That is again, I would like to believe probably we both talked after how long?
Many years, sir.
I think I would be talking the same at that time. In between, you must have heard 100 things about me becoming whatever I became. Having said that, everybody will have their own experience. In terms of sometimes I might not care. Maybe I didn't have the time, or didn't have the inclination, or preoccupied with something. We all do things to people, and they are right to assume certain things about me. I also would do the same probably with others.
Are you okay with not having friends from this industry?
I don't have friends. I never had friends in my college time also.
So who's your friend, sir?
I don't have a friend. I don't
Not at
want.
all?
Yeah, no.
You said
I
you
love
don't
my
want?
loneliness.
Did you say you don't want friends?
I don't want friends.
Why?
See, why do you need friends? First of all, is it to someone there when you feel low? I never feel low. I'm all the time excited. I never feel low. I'm all the time excited about something or the other in my life. And except for that, I meet a lot of people, interesting people. I might meet criminals. I might meet cops. I might meet some extreme people who do things. I am very curious by nature. I don't want an emotional anchor. I don't need it. All the time I want to be stimulated in the mind with some kind of a thought which will I'm a very curious person by nature. So I want to know the inside out of anything which I enter. So I might meet 10 different people in the course of a month, and I might spend only 1-2 hours, but that would be very intense experience for me.
We're at the end of our interview. But you said you don't need an emotional anchor. Fair enough. But I also know you're a very emotional person. I remember our conversation that we had after Jiah's passing away. And I remember you breaking down in my interview.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that how you couldn't see what was going to happen and how emotionally attached
this is
you were.
more than what happened to her. I was very emotional that I somehow lost the chance to be able to talk to someone as young as her. I feel I could have put her out of that state if I just took a little more effort. If I took at that time,
that's a lot of guilt to put on yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean,
but I think it's
justified. I do feel she was like what do you call? When she told me, she didn't tell me about somebody or something, but that something she is going through. I laughed it off because I was also busy. I was preoccupied. I was doing some work, but I didn't. The fact that happened, then I just felt I should have listened to her a little more, and I'm very convinced I could have put her out of the mental state if I took that effort, no matter what she was feeling. See, suicide is eventually an emotional state. When you suddenly at that particular point of time something tips over, and it becomes irreversible. So that tip over, I feel I could have stopped it. Yeah.
I like to end this interview by saying this. We're at the re-release time of Rangeela, which is a celebration of movies that last for such a long time. And kind of, and this is proof that good work can stand the test of time and connect to everybody. So I want to know about how far the cinema, according to you, has evolved today. People often talk about the lack of unity in the Hindi film industry. I would also like your opinions on that and end with that.
See, to start with, there's no such thing as an industry. All of them are doing their own individual films. Industry is just a convenient label the media puts, or sometimes when they say film industry. What is a film industry? See, if you go to a hotel, you have something, you pay, and whatever you do there. And that is that hotel and you as the client or a customer or whatever you call. Same thing, there's some shop. You know, shop industry. It is just trying to look at a top angle of that. So, for example, if you ask a highly successful producer, he will say the industry is fantastic. And then if I ask a guy who's made flops and lost money, he said industry has lost everything, man. See, everyone will have their own perspective. So, there's no such thing as a kind of a generalized industry. Okay. Yeah, in the sense of. Now, coming to now the dynamics or like the so-called pan-India thing have started. So, the advantage the South has is that it can release it in 3-4 languages, which the Hindi industry cannot. And over the years, the Hindi cinema has gone in a very different direction. And the South industry always followed the mass masala hero driven business. They initially copied from Bachchan's films in the 80s, 90s. All Rajinikanth and all of them became superstars because of Bachchan's, remix. You know. And at some point of time, the Hindi industry went into musicals in the 90s. So then they forgot this whole herogiri thing, which loosely came back at Gajni time, but it was like a one-off. Then Bahubali was too big a grandeur or whatever you call. So that is also a one-off. But maybe KGF 2 and all that is kind of suddenly it changed. And the Hindi industry is suddenly looking at... see, it's not like the South makes great films. The great films come here. We have an equal share of bad films, like what the Hindi film will have. But the interesting thing is, eventually a Sandeep Vanga could have been a Gujarati also. Sandeep Vanga's style of filmmaking shocked the South also, it's not only the North. You know, I think the individuals which make, but here the one problem is a corporate culture. They have their own issue, which is completely understandable. 10 people together and trying to make a collective decision in the creative field, I believe it can never work. I don't believe an animal can come out of Bollywood, for example, or a KGF 2, Kantara. You know, they're made on leap of faith. So since the producers are very isolated, they're not in corporate thinking, I feel they're able to make even the few films which are coming is because of that mindset, which I think is very difficult for that to happen in Bollywood.
On that note, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful hearing your honest conversations. I'd again like to say, they may not know you, they may like you, they may hate you, but you cannot ignore RGV for sure. And also, I think refreshingly honest as always. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.